All right, guys, we obviously have a massive, massive problem happening throughout the country right now. And, probably a million of you guys sent me the videos from California, and I'm going to address that in a couple minutes here. Plus, I want to share my screen and show you a few things on why I think this is happening. But on a surface level, here's what's going on. The Democrats are in a position, especially in sanctuary states, sanctuary cities, whatever you want to call it. They're in a position where they are trying to circumvent Trump's deportation operations, and they are not helping ICE in any way, manner, or form. If you go back throughout history and look through the Obama or the Biden administration, they did not necessarily run on deportations, and this is the key. You need to pay close attention to this. They didn't run or make it they didn't make this a big deal while they were running, but they still deported millions upon millions of people with not so much pushback. The deportations under Biden and under Obama, they position themselves in terms of being a politician and being very political as a necessary evil, right? They position this as something that they had to do, that they didn't necessarily want to do, but it was something that needed to be done. And there wasn't much pushback on that from, obviously, maybe the far left gave them some pushback and maybe there was a little protest here or there, but not to the amount that it's being escalated to today. Now, vice versa, Trump ran on deportations. The people voted for him based on these deportations. Why? And why did he win? Well, it's pretty simple, because the American public got sick and tired of the news media, mainstream media, local media, basically gaslighting us into this emotional manipulation. And the reason people are sick of it is because it's gotten pretty long in the tooth, right? It's obvious of what was happening. Furthermore, they are also in a position where, beside myself, there's a lot of independent journalists out there, and they are uncovering tax filings and all of these things, and they are showing you where your money is going. And guess what? When you have billions upon billions of dollars getting poured into illegal immigration, and meanwhile, people are struggling to afford, to heat their homes or to buy food for the week, guess what? People, the American citizens, are going to be upset about this, right? I mean, I think that's pretty darn obvious. But the reason there is so much pushback is because Trump ran on these things, for better or for worse, okay? I'm trying to be as fair as possible here. Trump ran on these things. So what's happening now is the Democrats are doing everything in their power to try to circumvent that and to give as much opposition and obstruction as humanly possible. But what they're doing by doing those things is they are creating absolute havoc throughout the country. And now they are pointing the finger at the Trump administration for escalating this further. But here's the deal, okay? This did not start with the Trump administration. This started with originally the Biden administration allowing so many people to come here. And now the Trump administration is trying to effectively clean up that mess. And while simultaneously trying to clean the mess, the Democratic side that once did not oppose deportations is now doing it, because this is something that Trump voters voted on, they voted for, and this is one of the reasons that Trump got elected. So, of course, what the Democrats are going to try to do, whether it's, let's say, as vocal as humanly possible or not, they are not in support of these things, and they are pushing back as strong as humanly possible. So now Trump decides to get the National Guard involved, and they're calling this, absolutely ridiculous, that this is the reason that these riots are and again, this is just not true, guys, right? The National Guard didn't need to be called because of, somebody holding a sign. The National Guard needed to be called because people were getting injured. There was damage to public property. People are like bombing cars. It's absolutely crazy to me. So if the Democratic Party is in a position where they could obstruct any levels of what Trump ran on, they're going to do that. And by the way, again, I'm trying to be as fair as humanly possible here. This is not a pro-Trump, anti-Trump, or pro-Democrat or anti-Democrat. I'm just stating simple facts here. And this is why this is happening. When you have Obama and Biden that had to do this because they made it seem like they were in a position where this was a necessary evil that they had to do, but they didn't necessarily run on these things. The American public didn't give it as much attention. But since this is something that Trump ran on, now this is a item of contention, okay? And that's what's happening. Furthermore, this is what's also happening. Now, this is Chilra, okay? This is one of the advocacy groups. This is the Coalition for Human Immigrant Rights. And what's happening is, if you are able to, and I could pull these two for our state, God only knows if they'll release this information to me, but here's what's happening, and I explained this to my wife this morning. You have money that is going from the taxpayer to the state, from the state into grant programs for these coalitions and advocacy groups. So we are basically funding our own demise, because what's happening now is that there is a ton of money getting poured into these advocacy groups, a ton of money, as you could see here. Hold on one second. So let me blow up my screen a little bit for you. I mean, millions upon millions of dollars is getting funneled into these companies. And whether or not they're paying protesters or not, that's not something that I could find out or know. But I will tell you, there are organized Discord groups, which is what also we use if you're a member of the channel, to kind of get together, organize, and plot out where they're going to go, right? That's what's happening. But the only way they can make these things happen is if there's money involved. And the easiest way to incentivize people, just like they incentivized illegal immigrants to live and stay here, is by giving them money. Now, I have no I'm just claiming these things. This is complete speculation. And I'm sure people are doing some of this out of the kindness of their hearts, but I also think there's a good amount of people that are not, and they are doing it solely for the money. So, again, this is a massive problem. And the same thing is happening here. I pulled the tax reports for our local coalitions here, and they are also getting mega funding. I did not pull the grants because I have to file a request with the state in order to get the grants, but they won't even allow me to show you that information because they're claiming it's not public data. But the reality is here, this is a huge problem. And when you have these Democratic mayors and these Democratic governors that put themselves in a position where they're not condemning these things and they are kind of in the background cheering them on, I think it's ridiculous. I really think that, there's that analogy where, if your wife or child was drowning, who would you save? I think if an American citizen or an illegal immigrant was drowning, I think you absolutely know who is going to be saved. And I think it's ridiculous.
So
I really do.
Anti-ICE rioters in L.A. blocking the highway and setting fire to the city.
This is what they're considering peaceful protests. Everybody is claiming that this is a peaceful protest. How is it peaceful when you have people throwing rocks at vehicles that could either get in a car accident, injure somebody? I mean, it's absolutely disgusting.
In protest of Trump's administration's illegal immigration crackdown.
Jonathan Hunt is live outside of the Metro Detention Center in downtown Los Angeles with the latest. Jonathan?
Ainsley, Lawrence, Brian, good morning to all of you once again. Yeah, we're outside the Metropolitan Detention Center right here in downtown LA. Still a very tense scene on the streets
Unlawful. LAPD declares unlawful assembly amid riots.
You can see the police cars lined up as they are at various intersections all around downtown LA right now as a result of what we have witnessed over the last few days. It all began, of course, on Friday with those ICE raids targeting illegal immigrants.
I mean, it's like a third world country.
The initial protests that we saw here, and then on Saturday there was even more protest sparked by ICE activity in the city.
Honestly, all of these people should be arrested. Like, the reason that this is happening at scale is because the arrests are not happening fast enough. As soon as I'm not satisfied because there's not enough, let's say, collateral damage happening for the people that are doing these things. Meaning that if you want to put yourself in a position to not allow this to happen, guess what? People need to be held accountable. The problem is, without holding people accountable, you're just enabling this to happen. That's the reality of there should be hundreds, if not thousands of arrests of these people. And without it, guess what? My concern is that we're going to see the same damn thing happen here. And I hate to say that, but this is a reality, because guess what? This is mainly happening in states with sanctuary cities with absolutely ludicrous Democrats. That's basically what it is.
Paramount. That's about 25 miles south of downtown LA. And with the protesters then clashing with federal agents, President Trump said he would call in the National Guard, federalizing members of the National Guard here in California and sending them to LA. By Sunday morning, they were on the streets of LA in their hundreds.
Why are they here?
The
funny thing is, they're burning the American flag. They're burning the American flag. They're anti-American, but they're all living off American taxpayers. How is that not a problem? How does that not piss you off? Really?
Protesters turned out to greet them. That's when things turned, of course, extremely violent. We saw the American flag burned. We saw Waymo, which are the robo-taxis, the self-driving taxis that are a common sight on the streets of LA, set on fire, at least 3 of them, very close to the 101 freeway, which was completely shut down in both directions for a time because of those thousands of protesters. They were met with smoke grenades, tear gas, and some rubber bullet rounds fired by law enforcement. The LAPD was on scene heavily on Sunday, having been criticized for a slow response on Friday. And President Trump said, having sent the National Guard in here, he would be perfectly willing to send a lot more troops.
When you're sending the National Guard in, you know it's a big problem, right? It's a big problem.
If necessary. Here's the president.
What is the bar for sending Marines?
What I think it is, if we see danger to our country and to our citizens, we'll be very, very strong in terms of law and order. It's about law and order.
Accuracy relief on the people, sir. Secretary,
we got to see what we need. We'll send whatever we need to make sure there's law and order.
Now, California Governor Gavin Newsom wrote in protest to the president and also posted on X saying, quote, "I have formally requested the Trump administration rescind their unlawful deployment of troops in Los Angeles County and return them to my command." I think the answer we can safely say to that is going to be a flat no from President Trump. He, in fact, has indicated he is willing to keep the National Guard here and bolster their ranks for up to 60 days if he feels it is necessary. I can also tell you guys there is another protest plan to gather in Grand Park, just a couple of blocks from where I am right now, at 11 a.m. local time today. That's 2 p.m.
This has nothing to do with, in my opinion, with the deportation of illegal immigrants. This has everything to do with opposing the Trump administration from successfully carrying out something that he ran on. That's all that this is. And Maura Healey is just as bad, as you know, as Gavin Newsom. Just as bad. Birds of a feather.
Eastern time, so those protesters are not letting up either. This is going to remain an extremely tense situation on the streets of Los Angeles. Lawrence Ainsley, Brian?
Jonathan, any sense of how many of these protesters are illegals? Do you get the sense that this is
good question?
This is illegals trying to stay here, or do you think it's just people creating anarchy?
I think you have a complete mixture of all of those things. Frankly, Brian, I think a lot of illegal immigrants would not be showing up to these protests.
I agree.
Simply because of the danger they would face of arrest. I think what you have are a lot of supporters of those illegal immigrants.
I agree. Here's why, and here's even something that's more telling. So why would an illegal immigrant go to a protest that ICE is looking for them, okay? But meanwhile, They have what I've said this before. They have all of the incentives from the state itself, right? Why are they going to put them in harm? Why are they going to put themselves in harm's way when they are effectively living off of a lot of these people are living off the state in these hotels, in apartments paid for by the taxpayer? Of course not. I wouldn't do that, right? Like, why would I risk? I'm sure there are some illegal immigrants that are there with masks on. I'm not saying that there's not, but I will almost guarantee you that the majority of people that are there are potentially American citizens. They don't know what the hell is going on. And they are in a position where they think they're doing the right thing, or they're being incentivized just as much as the illegal immigrants are.
A lot of pro-immigration activists. And then, as the LAPD chief Jim McDonnell himself said, you have a lot of people who have very little to do with the cause of immigration, but are here simply because this is, in the words of the LAPD chief, what they do. They turn up for these protests and riots. They turned up for the George Floyd protests and riots. They turned up for the anti-Wall Street protests and riots. And according to the police chief, they see a lot of the same faces turning up, organizing here, and according to the police chief, they are the ones engaging in most of the violence over the last few days, Brian.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, because there was never any consequences.
There you go.
Thanks, Jonathan. In 2020, they never got arrested.
There
was no criminal prosecution.
They were applauded.
Exactly. So you got the same people showing up to every movement with the keffiyehs, yet again, the same people that market in the middle of the street. You got the COVID masks that are on as well. And they say they're afraid of the police, remember, but they're throwing bricks at them. They're setting stuff on fire. There doesn't look like people that are afraid of.
They're not afraid because there's no consequences. Why would they be afraid of something if there's no consequences? I mean, it's as simple. It's like a primal instinct, right? If there's no consequences for the actions that they're committing, guess what? They're going to continue to do it. So why? I really don't understand why more. I'm not trying to like get into like a conspiracy theory here that they're letting this happen, but like that's how it seems to me. I don't know about you guys. You could let me know in the comments. Like, you know, does the Trump administration want this havoc to go on like this and to not make these arrests so that it just looks absolutely terrible for Democratic states and the people that represent their Democratic politicians that are supporters of them? Like, that's the thing that doesn't make sense to me, right? I would think that there would be more consequences for these actions, and clearly there's not. So why, right? And again, I'm not trying to be like some crazy conspiracy theorist here, but don't you think it is a little strange? I certainly do.
The police, these are people that feel empowered. This is why the president has to crack down and deal with it. Gavin Newsom has had years to deal with these people, and they've been free to do whatever they want. And now the hammer is being dropped.
Well, it's the Democrats that have demonized ICE agents, called them fascists. And so the individuals hear that, they go out and...
So I just want to say something really quickly. This is a major problem, all right? This is a major problem. We saw what happened between the attorney here, Leah Foley, and Michelle Wu. And when Michelle gets out and she gets on her stand and she starts condemning ICE and considering them or comparing them to like neo-Nazis, it's disgraceful. It's despicable. But what it does is it emboldens her let's say, political base that support her. That's what happens. And then you have absolutely radical people that get even more radicalized because they aren't condemning these acts. That's all that it is. That's why I think these things are potentially going to happen here too. Because guess what? The people on the far left, the radical left that are here, are going to see these things. They're going to see no consequences for these things. And they're going to think that this is just common practice. This is just another day. Okay, get your rocks, get your bricks, get all your things together, get your Molotov cocktails, and let's go to the protest, right? It's disgusting. It's really disgusting behavior.
protest. It doesn't make sense. You would think that the governor would want
exactly
federal agents or troops, National Guard to be sent in to help his police officers, because the LA police chief said we're overwhelmed. They're using cinder blocks and hammers. They're throwing these at our cars and at our police officers. That we've even had liquid, who knows what, thrown at our officers. They shut down the 101 freeway. You can't do that.
Meanwhile, it's become mini Mexico. That's why the flag.
Right.
These people are proud of it. They don't understand that it's hurting their cause, but they're not thinking about that.
And now Gavin Newsom wants to sue Donald Trump.
Right.
That's supposed to come down today.
Yeah,
and he's trying to stop. Yeah, he's trying to stop the whole presence of the National Guard.
So violent anti-ICE protests raging across L.A., burning U.S. flags, setting cars on fire, and throwing rocks at the police to protest the arrest of illegal migrants, including child abuse and murder suspects. But California Democrats like Kamala Harris, Mayor Karen Bass, and Governor Newsom.
Look at this. Kamala Harris says it is part of the Trump administration's cruel, calculated agenda to spread panic and division. There wouldn't be panic and division if they just cooperated with ICE. I mean, it's as simple as that. Why is nobody talking about this? What we are seeing in Los Angeles is chaos that is provoked by the administration, and these are the acts of a dictator, not a president. You guys are not even...
I don't blaming the Trump administration for the chaos. Border Czar Tom Homan joins us now.
Oh, here we go.
Tom, you've been leading these operations. And so instead of criticizing the people that are attacking our agents, you got Gavin Newsom, who has called for you to arrest him, and you got Maxine Waters, who is going after the National Guard. Watch this.
He's a tough guy. Why doesn't he do that? He knows where to find me. The hell is this guy? Come after me, arrest me. Let's just get it over with. Tough guy. You know, I don't give a damn, but I care about my community. And I'm sorry to be so clear, but that kind of bloviating is exhausting.
Am I wrong to think if he cared about his community, they wouldn't allow this to escalate this far? I mean, is that crazy to think?
Arrest me.
What are you going to do? You going to shoot some kid? He's afraid of you and run? You going to shoot an elected official? If you shoot me, you better shoot straight. I don't know why you're in my city. You did. The governor was not contacted.
Another lunatic.
Tom, what's your response?
Well, first of all, it's just ridiculous. That reporter from SMBC, he's a joke. He's a dishonest reporter. What we discussed was, for those protesters that cross the line, I've said it many times, you can protest, you get your First Amendment rights. But when you cross that line, you put hands on an ICE officer or you destroy property, or I say that you're impede law enforcement, or you're knowingly harboring, concealing illegal alien, that's a crime. And the Trump administration is not going to tolerate it. You cross that line, we're going to seek prosecution in the Department of Justice. Then the reporter asked me, well, could Governor Newsom or Mayor Bass be arrested? I said, well, no one's above the law. If they cross the line and commit a crime, absolutely they can. So there was no discussion about arresting Newsom. And so, you know, what he's done, he's failed that state. He waited 2 days of that city burning and people getting hurt, officers being assaulted before he made any declaration of an unlawful assembly. He's late to the game. President Trump isn't late to the game. Men and women of ICE are not late to the game. And let's make this clear. I keep hearing this term ICE raids, ICE raids. What happened with how this riot started is that ICE was serving a series of criminal warrants at a business being investigated for money laundering, customs fraud, and serious violations on sending money to criminal cartels that in Colombia and Mexico that fund criminal cartel activities in the United States. It's a part of an overall conspiracy that ICE is investigating. So we're arresting bad people. We were enforcing laws and following up on a serious criminal investigation on cartel financing. So that's exactly what ICE did. And ICE took a lot of bad people off the street that day. We arrested a sexual predator, arrested gang members, arrested somebody that had an armed robbery conviction. So we made L.A. safer. The men and women at ICE, the men and women at the Border Patrol made L.A. safer that day. But you're not hearing any of this. All you hear is a rhetoric about ICE being racist, about ICE being Nazis and terrorists. And Governor Newsom feeds that. Just like Hakeem Jeffrey feeds it, that he's going to unmask ICE agents. And the members of Congress who keep feeding this rhetoric, they're the ones that are causing this riot. Because they don't listen to the truth about what the men and women at ICE are doing. We're keeping our promise to American people to make these streets safe again. And that's exactly what we're going to do. And we're not going to stop doing it.
Tom, who gave the stand down order from the LAPD when your federal agents were being surrounded?
It's nuts.
And you know the call. You were a local cop before you were a federal agent. When a cop says officer assist across the radio that they're surrounded, everyone in the surrounding area is supposed to respond. So who told the LA cops not to respond?
Well, the LA police chief, he works for the mayor of Los Angeles. That's Karen Bass. And they were delayed. They were very delayed in responding to the call for assistance.
Look at this.
Like I was here, and it had over 1,000 protesters at the federal building and they breached it several times. Luckily, they were able to push them back, and that put the officers at great risk. It put the detainees that we had in custody at great risk. So again, this is just a false narrative being pushed by the left and being pushed by even members of Congress about the men and women of ICE being Nazis and terrorists and that we're out arresting innocent women and children. Everybody we arrested, everybody we're looking for, they got
they're a riot gear, right?
They had the due process. That's what they keep shouting about. They demand due process. They had the due process. A judge, a federal judge has ordered them removed. Our job is to execute that order, right? So you got Congress who made the laws that we're following. You have a judge that orders them removed. So we're executing removal orders. ICE is doing the job that American people want them to do. We're making America safe again, one illegal criminal at a time, and that's what we're doing in LA.
So, Tom, the travel ban is set to go into effect today. Over a dozen countries are on that list, including Venezuelan nationals. Tell me about this travel ban. What is it going to do to stop the travel coming across this country to illegal immigrants?
Yeah, before I got that, let me just mention this. God bless President Trump for sending the National Guard. The National Guard here to protect property, protect life, protect our officers, and protect civilians. You've seen the video. This city's burning. It's out of control because of the weak leadership of Democrats here in the state and frankly, in the United States Congress. Crime. So I salute President Trump for sending the National Guard to protect life and property. And the travel ban is exactly what it should be doing. In the countries that are being targeted on this, do not do proper vetting before the issue visas come to this country. This is about protecting America, right? We spent 4 years, got over 2 million known gotaways. How many of them came from a terrorist country that sponsors terrorism? We don't know. President Trump has taken every step possible to protect this nation from a terrorist attack and from other criminal activity that crosses our border and comes into the visa program. So this is simply making these countries step up and doing the right thing. When you send someone and give someone a visa come and they enter the United States, we want proper vetting done before they come here. That's what this is about.
Tom, I got only a few seconds left, but I got to get your reaction to Kilmar Obrego Garcia. They wanted him back, they got him back, but he's been indicted on 2 counts. 1 count of conspiracy of unlawful transport of illegal alien for financial gain, maximum imprisonment, 10 years. You got count 2, unlawful transportation of an illegal alien for financial gain. How serious are these charges, real quick?
They're real serious, and we're going to bring back, we're going to criminally prosecute, we're going to put him in prison. And when he gets done with his prison sentence, he can be deported right back to his homeland.
Tom Homan, thank you so much.
Everybody had everything to say about that guy, and then all of a sudden he comes back and he's getting all of these federal charges. But overall, this is really sad. And who it's sad for, honestly, is everybody, really, everybody in America. That's who this is sad for, because they have both the Trump administration and the let's say the Democratic Party of the sanctuary cities, the sanctuary states, they're basically using their citizens as this political shield, right? And there's absolutely no consequences to these things. And that's what I find very, very disheartening. And that's what I find very, very strange. And I think that Trump or Tom Homan or whomever, they really need to start prosecuting these people, and there really needs to be more consequences. That's the reality. As soon as consequences come into play, I think that all of this stuff, just like look at it this way. Look at what happened with the Tesla riots, right? All of a sudden, people started to get arrested. Guess what happened? When was the last time you saw somebody firebombing a damn Tesla, right? So why is the same thing? I know it takes time, but this is beyond the Tesla riots. This shit is insane. I mean, this is insane. I don't know if these people are looting buildings. I'm sure there's probably some of that going on. Like, people are trying to make an opportunity. They try to make, whenever there's chaos, there's also a group of people that try to capitalize on these things and create some levels of an opportunity. But it's just the circumstances are just sad because, as I said in the beginning of the video, I think, you know, the American people are basically being used as pawns here. And I think it's happening on both sides, because on one side, on the left side, you have these politicians that are emboldening these people. And on the right side, there's just not enough consequences. So, like, as I said earlier, is this something where they want this to be televised? They want this absolute ridiculous conduct happening because they think that it's going to win them political points on the right side by not creating the consequences. And I just don't understand it myself, to be honest with you. I think it's really shameful, realistically, on both sides. I think there needs to be more consequences. More people need to be arrested, and they need to set order within these things, right? If somebody is doing something that, you know, if you're assaulting an officer, you're throwing rocks at people that are driving or whatever it is, put them in jail. Why is that not happening at scale? That's what does not make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me. And I'm very worried. I am very, very worried about what may happen here. I really am. I really and truly am, because we have the same, we're like California light or California 2.0. Okay. That's how Massachusetts is. It's just, I don't even know. All right. That's it for today's video, guys. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.